How do we roll into this? Do we just go? There's no intro. There's no.
We just go. There is no intro.
Well, we could technically do.
We just did a solo not long ago.
The intro is the show.
I know, but
the intro is the 45-minute show before we do the food. That's just all intro.
Pretty much.
All right.
You're listening to The Janchi Show, hosted by 3 Korean American adoptees diving headfirst into what it means to be adopted, Korean American, and more. And now, here's your hosts, Nathan, Patrick, and KJ.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to The Janchi Show. It feels like forever since the 3 of us have been in a virtual room together, but we are all here. Your boys, KJ, Nathan, Patrick. How are we doing, fellas?
What's up?
I'm tired.
Yay.
Yeah. Good thing this isn't video.
I mean, it is video, but will it ever be released? Who's to say?
Who's to say? Hasn't
But it's
been
good to
for
see your
many,
faces,
many
though,
times.
So
Good to see your faces as well.
Yeah.
I think it's
And I
been
got
at
a little
least a
glimpse.
month, maybe longer, month and a half since
Yeah.
I've been on the show.
Yeah, probably. Nathan, for any new listeners who are dropping in, what does Janchi mean? Why do we call ourselves the Janchi Show?
the word janchi, which is to feast or celebrate, and banquet, if you're talking about janchi noodles. But we are feasting and celebrating just, about our stories, our adoption narratives, and ourselves and our lived experiences and others when we interview people, and in a way, celebrating ourselves, right? And everyone, all the adoptees.
Celebrating ourselves.
Right?
Well, I mean, we started by celebrating ourselves as Korean adoptees. So,
Were we celebrating?
We were.
Or were we just talking about it?
We were. I think no. We started in a place of celebration. And
It was so long ago, I don't remember.
I will always remember Jerry just being like, "It really only takes one Korean person to give a Korean adoptee the yes, and then they're like, oh yeah, I'm in it now." But like, you get no's so many times in your life.
That's true.
But if you come across a person, a situation, a life circumstance where you get that yes, that's like all it takes, and you're like, I'm good now. Maybe not, all it takes, but like often that is what it takes. Is just one yes can make the difference in the world. So we're out here, trying to say yes to all of our interracial Asian adoptees. I mean, broadly adoptees, but specifically for the purposes of this show,
Trying to say yes.
Trying to give that yes, that affirmation that you are good, that you belong, that you are enough, all those things here on the show. It has been a long time. Patrick, when we last spoke, you were pre-child, and now you are
Pre-child.
post-child?
Post-pre-child.
You're post-pre-child, which was to say with born child.
With, yes. With,
I'm confused.
Post-womb child.
Post-womb, yes.
We are out of the womb and into the world.
Nice.
You got a baby.
Oh, baby in the world.
Baby.
Armstrong
Baby
is
in the world.
Nice.
Van in the world. Doesn't have the same ring to it.
All
Baby
right.
van in the
That's just because
world.
you're not used to it.
I haven't
Not
really
yet.
said it that much. Or that specific phrase, that specific 4-string of words I've not said once yet,
Ever.
so.
Yeah.
Baby in the world. Very true. I am a father now,
Yes.
and that is why I speak so slowly and so deeply.
Because you're without sleep.
Because I am
Quiet.
without
You're with
sleep.
child and
baby.
without sleep.
Yeah.
I mean, he stays. I feel like he doesn't wake up when it's too early to just wake up from sound. We're coming up on the time where he's very aware of sight
yeah.
and sound. But right now he's just like, okay, when I fall asleep, I'm asleep. As long as you don't shake me, I'll be asleep. And then every 2 hours I will wake up and I will want to feed or I will have pooped a lot in my diaper.
Would you say that he would want to janchi every 2 hours?
No, it's not a party.
It's not a feast.
It's not a feast.
party
It's
in
not
his
a banquet.
diaper?
It's
He's
not a celebration.
He's not a banquet baby.
Not right now.
I mean, have you been peed on yet?
I've been peed on a couple times. So we had to deal with some jaundice, which I learned is about 60% of all babies deal with.
Yeah.
And he did not pee or poop very much for a long time at the beginning of that. And the first time that he did a projectile pee onto me and the wall and the mirror, we celebrated. Then we Janchi. That was a Janchi when that happened. So
you need the PPTP.
Yeah. I've got one. Okay. I've got one projectile poop. It's not projectile poop. It's more like I lifted his butt up after he pooped and he pooped some more. Then it fell out. And then one projectile spit up where we were playing on the ground at like 3 a.m. and he was good. And because we're doing like a combo feed and he had just had some formula and he was just sitting there and he's like, and he just like exorcist went, and it just like shot out like a river of formula. And it was so much. And I just was like, all right.
You were like,
here's my dad tip for you. You know how you might have spare clothes in the car for him? Also have a spare change of clothes in there for you.
Oh, I just put on 12 layers of clothes every day, and I just remove one layer.
You just remove them at a time.
Yeah. As I go along. It's hot, but it's still a little bit cold in Indiana. So
that's funny. Well,
that's a good tip, though.
Now the tips get to extend to me, as I can officially announce on the feed that I am pregnant. Not pregnant, but I'm going to have a baby in August of 2024. All things going well. So
congratulations.
Yeah, we're
Janchi time.
We're very. Do you know that? I feel that we've done ourselves a disservice. You guys know that Janchi means to feast, right?
Yeah.
We're not like eating.
Yes.
Like it's not a synonym for like
to eat
celebration. I mean, we just imply a celebration.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because you were
celebration
like, you were like, Van projectile peed, and then we Janchi'd. And you're like, what did you eat? That's disgusting.
we ate the pee, like it's sprinkled into our mouth. I guess that's would be drinking, but that's neither here nor there.
But yeah, so we're now all three on the way to dadhood. We really got to update the intro to the show because a lot of life has passed.
Yeah, that's true.
But
it's changed.
The heart of the show stays the same. We're not going to make it a dad podcast, although we are exploring potentially some Korean adoptee dad podcast avenues. So let us know in our messages. You can. Oh, I just found this out. So you can either send us a DM or an email, or you can text the number that we leave a voicemail to, and just let us know if you're interested in listening to 3 adoptees talk about being dads. But we're not going to clutter our main feed with dad talk because we know that for adoptees, family can be a lot. Some people are going to choose to not have family. Some people may not be able to have kids or whatever that is. So we're going to try to keep that as much as possible. I mean, obviously being dads is going to become part of our identities and be what we talk about, but keep it adoptee focused, keep our conversation adoptee focused, and while we amplify other adoptee stories, thinking about like how we're growing as adoptees and all that kind of stuff, and thinking critically about our identities. So never fear if that's not what you want. And if that is what you want, let us know.
Text yes, daddy to whatever our phone number is. I forgot what it is.
Do that.
Yes, daddy, please. To whatever our number is.
Please do not do that. That'd be hilarious and so
Patrick's delirious right now. Don't listen.
So angry.
I would laugh, but I don't get the emails, or wherever those messages come into. So,
and we will still have guests. We are still going through our guest list, so don't worry if you have applied or are interested in applying. We will still try to get to you as soon as we can. So.
Yeah, but our show is in the state of flux because of different life things going on. Obviously, Patrick with a newborn, me with a baby on the way. Nathan, your life is probably the most stable in that you have kids, but kids grow, so your life is like never that stable.
It probably will get more stable on, to be honest. So
that's fair. Yeah.
While you guys get busier, I'm actually gonna probably have more free time in the next year.
Nathan's like, guys, can we hang out? I'm like, I just want to sleep.
I'm bored, guys. What are you doing?
But yeah, so the release schedule coming weekly. Obviously, if you've been with us for a while, you probably are aware that we have missed our weekly window. So we're just going to be in a state of flux for a little bit. But Patrick, you've got news that even affects that outside of dadhood, correct? Did you announce that?
I haven't announced it yet. I'm going to make an announcement soon. I'm waiting for them to make promotional things for it, I guess, so I don't have to do it myself.
Okay. Well, basically, suffice it to say, Patrick got some great opportunities that we will post about when we're allowed to post about it.
I mean, I think I can post about it. I've seen other people, one of the other people I'm in residency with, posting about it. Anyway, long story short, I am making a limited series podcast about the Asian American diaspora in Indianapolis. I'm calling it tentatively Asian America at the Crossroads. And yeah, that's about it. I'm going to be doing that all the month of April. Super excited about it. Putting together a cool team to help me work on that. And if you've been following my other show, Conversation Piece, which has been coming out weekly, you'll have seen the quality, the production value up significantly over the last month or so. So especially since February. So you can expect that, if not more. And I'm really excited about some of these conversations we're going to be having.
Yeah. 100%. I love stories like this. And actually, this is not what I planned to talk about for today's episode, but I've been listening to Everything I Learned in a Chinese Restaurant by Curtis Chen. Super fantastic memoir, and I'm almost done with it. But he talks about growing up in Detroit, and it's just really, really fantastic listening to those stories and listening to specifically Asian American second plus gen stories. And just like all of that whole experience is just really fascinating to me. I think the more that I am in the Dallas area and thinking about second plus generation Asian Americans, I'm just more curious and I'm more hungry for those types of stories. I'm obviously so grateful for all of the work around the history of Asian America, broadly speaking. But now I'm really excited to hear more stories of like just the personal, first person, second person type stories of like what it is to be Asian America in a specific locale. I think that's really wonderful. So can't wait to check out what you're working on, Patrick, and be able to promote that when it comes out.
I got to read that book. If you don't know, I also have been doing events for a local bookstore here in Indianapolis, and we are going to be the booksellers for Curtis when he comes through Indy sometime in late March. And I think we might be doing a small event or get together at our bookstore. I'm not 100% sure, but I've heard nothing but great things about the book, and I am excited to read it.
Yeah. Broadly talking about growing up in Detroit, one of the things that was the most interesting to me was he is adjacently aware of, like, had like a associate, like a close proximity kind of, not like a relationship per se, but like it was a relationship with Vincent Chin. And just hearing his perspective of the fallout of that was just so wild, because I've only heard that story from the historical perspective of what it means broadly for our community, but hearing a personal take about how it affected someone living in Detroit, and then like the way that he continues to move throughout his community and all that stuff was really interesting. So yeah, and it's funny, it's interesting, it's so well written. Yeah, it's really, really fantastic. So yeah, can't recommend it enough. That's Everything I Learned at a Chinese Restaurant by Curtis Chin.
Cool.
Yeah. But today I wanted to talk about a different book that I've been reading, which people who, for longtime listeners of the show, may not be surprising that I'm listening to this book, but the actual reason that I decided to listen to the book was because of this podcast and because of the kind of ever-present conversation in the adoptee community around trauma and how it relates to being adopted, all that stuff, whatever. And so I've been listening to this book I finished this book called When Religion Hurts You. It's by Dr. Laura Anderson. And it's kind of the psychology of high control religion and how you come out of that and all those things. And it's just really interesting because it explains trauma as A, complex, B, in the eye of the beholder. So it's not like I don't know. I feel like before I would think about trauma as like, oh, you got into a car accident, you went to war, you are a survivor of abuse, you know, as a traumatic incident. And in her book, in her research, maybe it's not necessarily her research, but her argument is that trauma is like a thing that your body holds, feels, perceives. And so it's like it is specific to you. So there's like an event, but trauma is actually the stuff after that, which I thought was really interesting. But specifically, I guess she writes, so she quotes a sociologist named Ronnie Janoff Bullman, who created this shattered assumptions theory. So the Wikipedia article says, shattered assumption theory proposes that experiencing traumatic events can change how victims and survivors view themselves and the world. Specifically, the theory concerns the effect that negative events have on three inherent assumptions: overall benevolence, meaningfulness of the world, and self-worth. And those three things, I just thought like the idea of shattered assumptions, obviously it fits really neatly in with other adoptee scholars' work of rupture and dissonance and all those things. When you talk about like the adoptee consciousness model, and I'm sure that they were very aware of that as they created their own model. But I guess like when we started the podcast, it was out of that shattered assumptions. What has changed since then? And I think especially around, I guess, Patrick, mostly for you, kind of for me, thinking ahead of that. But Nathan, you were already a parent, but like, has anything changed from the assumptions after we reconstructed from the initial shattering? Have other things changed now with parenthood on the horizon?
I think a lot has changed since initially starting the show. I was, for me personally, very fresh into that shattering, that rupture period. And I was, it was like a rapid deconstruction that was, had we not started the show, could have spiraled very quickly into out of controlness, into wild chaos. And not saying that it didn't go to those points at varying times, but I think what has changed the most has been for me, has been the ability to put all those pieces together a little bit, even if they don't necessarily fit into a perfect puzzle or shape or picture, and being able to also step away from said picture pieces and view it from a lot higher level than it feeling so personal, even though it is very personal to me. It is my own specific experience. Being able to take just take that, just take that high level view of, oh, what is all of these things that I experience since not only being adopted, but then having this coming to consciousness, this shattering moment of like, oh, I have to really think about myself differently, not just as an adopted person, but as an Asian American, even as all my other identities of being cishet and male, my place in the world, my place in all my communities, and how I want to go forward in doing that. So I think that's been the biggest change. In addition to having now been in therapy for almost 8 months, and that process, that journey leading me from self-acceptance to self-love, and understanding that those two things are not the same thing, and really feeling a lot more whole, talking about putting the pieces together of that puzzle or picture, feeling a lot more whole, especially as I enter parenthood. And since actually I've entered into parenthood, all the adoptees that I talk to who become parents and then either have their rupture moment or are kind of in it and thinking about that are like, this is going to be a huge thing for you. Like, or you can expect it to be a very huge thing. Like, adoptee stuff is all going to be coming up and yada, yada, yada. And to be honest, I feel like none of that has happened for me. I feel like it has not been something that's really on my mind a lot. I don't feel like there was a moment at the hospital where I was like, really felt that biological connection. And then after that, it was just like, okay, we're connected. And I haven't really thought about it. And I haven't really felt like a lot of these earth shattering moments or revelations or feelings or whatever it is that one would feel through this. And I don't know if that's because it's just proximity from birth is like really short. So like I'm a really, really condensed, crunched period of time. Or if it's just like I had done so much work over the last 3 years to put me in this position. And again, going back to therapy, shout out therapy. Like that
Shout
has
out.
really that has really put me in a really good position to enter into this period outside or inside of or in this place of wholeness. Not that I'm whole, but more whole than I've ever been. Whereas before it would have been like, okay, I'm just coming into this chaotically and not knowing who I am or having a good sense of who that person is. So
Yeah.
I think that's how it's changed for me. So, like a lot of stuff has changed. And then now as a parent, like I feel like I don't feel things changing because of it, but who's to say?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think, I guess as far as just, I'll go back to, things that have changed. I guess for me, awareness has changed. Just being aware of certain situations that I've been in different areas of the country, knowing more people and what to kind of expect, like the community, and just kind of connecting with other adoptees and hearing their stories and hearing their experiences has just left a little bit more, openness to the things that I didn't know about before. So I'm not as shocked when I hear about different situations or different stories now. And I think that helps me know that I'm not alone or that other people aren't alone as well. But as a parent, kind of what you were saying, Patrick, I think for me, I did have that moment right at the hospital when I was holding my son thinking, oh my gosh, this is the first blood relative that I'm like holding in a way. Is like, I had met my sister, but I wasn't like, holding them as my, because I didn't really connect that well at the time. I just said, oh, hi. But this was like an actual blood relative that I'm holding that, and I thought at the time looked like me. And I definitely had moments of just, wow, this is crazy. But then after that, you get into the routine of just being a parent. It's like, okay, now I got to feed, change diapers, do all those routine things. And I didn't have as much moments to remember or try to think into that depth of being an adoptee at that time. It was more just being a parent, a first-time parent, which was groundbreaking enough for me because we had tried for so long. And then finally, there we go. We have a, we have a son. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe things will change as you go down, but you were a lot more ready, I think, because you said you were doing therapy. You had talked to other people. I don't think I talked to anybody about what's it like to be an adoptee having a child. I never had that those moments before. I was just kind of like, oh, I was more worried about how to be a dad.
Yeah. Well, I think that's one of the things is I think I shared something really early on about when he was crying some and I couldn't like get him to calm down. Mm-hmm. It was like, oh, does it feel like he can pick up on my shatteredness and my brokenness and not being able to? And that has to deal with, like you mentioned, self-worth, I think is one of those pillars or whatever. And like that very much felt like that. But yeah, it's just like, I feel so grounded in each moment that I don't really, it's not that I can't reflect on the past or think about the future. It's that I feel like I've done so much of that it's just all informing me all in the moment. And mm-hmm. So instead of like dwelling on it or really thinking like, oh, I'm going to sit here and think about how does this affect me as an adoptee? I'm just going with it because I'm just thinking about being a parent in mm-hmm. that moment. And so there probably will be time like when he is capable of allowing me to sleep more than 3 consecutive hours and my brain is fully functioning, that I might be able to sit and reflect a little bit more on that and maybe be like, oh, that's what this was, or that's what this was. Like my biggest revelation, I think, has been that I feel very sensitive to how I'm perceived as a parent. And I think it's self-perception as opposed to anybody else is perceiving. But like, there are certain moments where I just feel like I can feel like, oh, like something that Emily says makes me feel like I'm doing a bad job, even though it's not at all what she's saying. Mm-hmm. And right in those moments, like that's the only thing that I've realized at all is just like I think I just have a hypersensitivity to that. And I'm sure there's a lot tied to that self-worth part, that or that adoptee piece, but like I'm not really reflecting on it at the moment. Like I'm just like in it. I'm just trying to like do the best job that I possibly can, and to leave it on a sports metaphor, just like leaving it all on the field. You know what I'm saying? Like leaving it all on the court every single day in each moment. And then I'm just waking up and going to the next one. Yeah. And but the grounded part is so I want to remember these times, like, and because I know it's going to, like, you probably already know this, Nathan, with kids that are older now, but like, I just don't, I want to be able to remember and recall these times, even if it's like super hard and like I'm not getting much sleep, because it is going to keep changing.
It goes quick for sure. Something you just said is hypersensitivity. That's something that I felt. I don't know if that's an adoptee trait or something that that I noticed, but I parented it a little different than Allison did when we first had our first son. And I was hypersensitive to his cries. And I don't know if that was, me feeling like I can't abandon him while he's crying and having any kind of like this like feeling like I was not, like I said, doing enough or helping care for him while he's crying. Like, for example, later down the road, you'll get to sleep training, which was very hard for me. I couldn't do that. I did not like hearing him cry in the car. I did not like hearing him cry when he was trying to go to bed. And I was always like super sensitive, like, oh, should we go do this? Should we go do that? Maybe I should do this. And where Allison was a little more, no, we should just give it a second, or we should do these things. She was a lot more calm about things. I mean, is it a personality trait that just I have, or is it a thing that was deep rooted somewhere from another time when I was, in the foster care or the foster mom situation that I had as a kid. Maybe I cried a lot and they didn't do anything. I don't know. But I always wondered, why was I so jumped to action whenever he cried?
Right.
So,
well, I think that I've heard from a lot of people, like a lot of dads, that that's a really hard thing because they have a natural inclination to be calmed more by the mother, because that's who they've been gestating inside of for 9 months. They have that really deep rooted physically biological connection. And it can be hard. One of my friends who's not an adoptee, that's what he commented on one of my posts, was just like, it was really hard for me to feel like I couldn't calm him down, my son down, when he was crying, and I have to like give him off to my wife. And I think that I think that's a little bit of it. I think for me, this hypersensitivity is just the perception that I am not doing a good job when maybe it's not even crying, but it's just like not being able to do a certain thing. And that's me thinking that about myself. But then I'm projecting it onto people who might even say something that could trigger me into thinking, oh, you think I'm doing a bad job.
See, I think that's where, and I think that what we just talked about, Nathan, especially what you brought up, is a great beta test for the dad podcast.
The dad podcast. That's what I was thinking the whole time. I'm like, I know you said we weren't doing dad podcasts, but
this is. That's what it
this is
a
backdoor pilot.
But back to, it's a backdoor pilot. But I think that it's the idea, right, that adoptee-ness or post-adoption living is, and this is what I thought was so interesting about the book, was that like that trauma lives in the body. And so for many adoptees who are adopted, before the age of 3, we can hold that, our bodies can hold on to that trauma. And we are not yet healing people. If we haven't begun that journey. And so it could be, Nathan, that you are a very sweet person. And so it could just be like that your level of empathy was like, no, I want to take care of my kid. But it could also be maybe there is some part of your body and your brain holds on to trauma from being given for adoption, being in the foster care system, the Korean foster care system, all that kind of stuff, that caused you to, in that moment with your child, be like, I need to do this because something about this is familiar and I need to change, And in the same way, Patrick, I think like for you, like that sensitivity of like, am I good enough, essentially, is like that broad existential question, is kind of that like, that need for, I think as adoptees, we can also often feel like am I good enough? Will I get rejected by my partner, by my child, by my anything, right? It's that backdrop of living in the fear of rejection that many of us can feel. And even if we are, healing people, then it's like you still have to wrestle with that, and it still comes up in different ways, and you still kind of feel like that. Side note on the whole like baby crying thing and sleep training, there is like another philosophical idea of like the no of the father and the no of the mother, and how that affects and shapes who the baby becomes growing up and all that kind of stuff. So like for me, having listened to a podcast kind of related on that philosophically, I'm like, I mean, yeah, you just got to do that, but it's interesting. Again, this is the backdoor pilot. It's interesting having Sarah and I talk about it. Sarah talks about, I just want our child to be safe. And I talk about, I want our child to be prepared. And so like, that's a very different kind of philosophical approach to parenting, that we have yet to discuss because it's very early for us still.
Yeah.
But it's something that I flagged very early that her natural inclination and her natural language, therefore, is safety versus preparation.
Sure.
Yeah.
Anyways, so that's like, I think that the
balance.
Yeah, the shattered assumptions, I think, and the idea of how you rebuild after that is so interesting. And it does, I think it can change. Like parenthood is another big like life marker, but like it's just like I know that some assumptions were shattered in 2020, certainly for me. And Nathan, it sounds like you had some when your child was born, then maybe again in 2020, and all that kind of stuff. And so it's just an interesting kind of situation. And I really I loved the book because it talks about first off, trauma. So Dr. Anderson talks about trauma as anything that is too much, too fast, too soon, and inhibits our brain's ability to cope and return to a sense of safety. It lives in the body and is perceived danger, meaning there doesn't have to be an actual threat or danger. It's enough for the person just to perceive that, right? And I love that, like the way of thinking about trauma as something that your body holds on to, and that our brains can get used to living in a certain way, but our bodies know that that's not okay. And so like, I definitely recommend it. I mean, even if you don't have a ton of experience in high control religion, maybe it's a little less like relevant to you, but strictly for the conversation around trauma and complex PTSD, I think is really interesting. So, yeah.
Well, I think it's a conversation that we have. Like you probably said it at the beginning of this, but in our community a lot is like our lives start with a really traumatic event. And hearing you kind of talk about it, explain it, and reading over kind of what you shared in the thing that we use, I've been reading this book called Hereafter. It just came out by Amy Lynn. She's Asian Canadian. It's about grief. Specifically, she loses her husband to a tragic freak accident, really like in their like early or maybe mid to late 30s. And it's about her processing and dealing with this grief. And the part that I'm on right now, she's been talking to like a therapist or like a grief counselor about how grief, like how you go through that. And essentially it's like your body will still feel these feelings of this grief because of this super traumatic event that's just happened, like 5-6 years down the road. Like you're still going to be processing it, and you might even fall back into it or go through it again for whatever reason. And I think for adoptees, and as it relates to that, like we like it is imprinted into our body immediately. And like you said, we're not healing people yet as infants. I mean, like you can't.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
like you don't know you don't know that you need to be on the path to healing. And something that I think I was thinking about a lot before Van was born was this difference between healing and healed. And I think that for a long time, I was like, when we first started the show, like I was trying to get healed. And I was trying to have this finite, absolute thing to be like, yes, okay, I'm done now. Let me do something else. And I think a big realization has just been, I just want to be on the path to healing and understanding that I will always be working through navigating this in perpetuity. And that's okay. Like, but as long as I can continue on this path of healing, like there's never an end point of like, oh, I'm healed now. It's just like I will always be healing, and then I die. So like not to be morbid about it, but it's just like that is and maybe it's not enjoyment, but enjoying the process of doing something is the healing. And when it comes to something like this, and for a lot of people, it's going to take a long time to figure out how to even have that mindset and get to the point where you can start healing, and knowing that that's something that you need, a path that you need to be walking down. Because we're not healing people as infants. If we enter into a situation in an adoptive family that they don't know that is a trauma that's happened to the child that they are bringing into their family, that's not going to be a place that they ever start going down. And how are they supposed to know that without proper education? They won't. And so, like, for me, it took 30 years to get to that point. Shout out to the young folks out here, these young adoptees who are Gen Z, Gen Alpha, who are like, having these conversations. And it kind of sucks because we live in a time where children especially are just being put in these positions of intense trauma, even outside of adoption.
Yep.
And it's just like, oh, we have to heal. And you can hear, it sucks that you have to just even know that this is a place that you have to be at, and go down that path at such a young age. And it does give me a lot of hope, I think, in humanity, where I can find it, because young folks are able to be like, yes, like this is what we need to do. Why don't you?
There's more resources for them, which I think is great. I think the fact that people find what works for them, because there's different, outlets for everybody. Everyone has to attack it whichever way works best for them. Some people need to write music or a book, or some people just need to talk to a friend or a therapist or a community. And I really feel that, the only way to find those things is by trying. And like you said, it's an ongoing process of finding what works best for you. And it's like never ending, but I'm positive that it always gets better. Or I guess it's more of a roller coaster. Sometimes it's better, sometimes it's worse. So I guess it's up and down. But I hope that it's always at least a little bit of an upward trend.
So Nathan is saying life is like the stock market.
Life is like the stock market.
It's not investing advice, but if you invest in the S&P 500, then,
sometimes it's scary as heck.
Yeah, over 10 years, it does. And
then it's all still controlled by the government.
So I think that's what's so interesting around the idea of the shattered assumptions theory. Is we talk about the world is benevolent. We talk about the world is meaningful, which specifically a meaningful world is one that makes sense. And then that the self is worthy, which is the final fundamental assumption evaluates oneself as a positive, moral, and decent, thus deserving of good outcomes in life. So it's like, generally, this assumption enables an individual to maintain a belief that they have the ability to control positive or negative outcomes. And I think, like, what I have found very recently is, I think for a while I thought I was healed, and I have found more spaces to continue healing. I thought, like, oh yeah, I've done the work. I read how to be anti-racist. I'm good there, and now I'm like, oh, I got more work to do. Or I've read The Making of Asian America. I'm Asian American.
Right.
I've done the work there, whatever. And like recently I realized, I'm like, especially living here in Dallas, I'm like, I got a lot of work to figure out how to be cool with white people again. Like pre-2020, I didn't think about it. Post-2020, I was like, all white people are trash. And now I'm like, well, that's like my entire family. So maybe I got work to do. And then I thought I was good enough. And then I'm like, oh man, I still have more work to do.
Yeah.
So it's just like that. I think that's what I mean. Like, it's just so interesting to sit in the adoptee space and think around like the rupture and the dissonance, and then move into, oh yeah, I've got more work to do on the healing journey.
Yeah. It's the multiplicity of things, like the understanding that, a bunch of stuff is true all at the same time, or can exist in the same space, and that's okay. And like, I feel like I was the same as you. Like, I was like, oh yeah, whiteness. And then I was like, all white people are terrible. And now I'm like,
You're like,
you know
wait,
what?
I'm married to one.
Yeah, you know what? Not everybody is terrible. And some people are super terrible. And everything is happening at the same time. And, I just got to figure that out. So,
Well,
I mean, come on, let's be honest. It's the people. There's some Asian people that are terrible. So
I mean, yeah, that's the classic. Not all skin folk is kinfolk.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So
yep.
Can't
not
really
all adoptees
base
is
it off
adoptees.
of,
I'm just kidding.
base it off, yeah.
No, I mean, it's funny when we first found out that we were pregnant, and there was like this very long waiting game to figure out like, are things good? Living in Texas was particularly, I mean, continues to be particularly terrifying. And I told Sarah, I was like, right now we're in Schrodinger's cat mode. And I, like, for me, I talk about death a lot, and I think it generally makes Sarah not the most comfortable, but I'm very comfortable with just the fact that all things die, that mortality just exists.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, while we don't know, and while we're in the early phases of things, then it's like Schrodinger's cat. Like the baby exists in a state of superposition, like both alive and not alive. And like, it's not until we observe it that works. And maybe that's not like the most accurate way to think about like a baby, but I have found a lot of hope and a lot of grace in the idea of superposition. And I think that does help break out of the binary and help break out of, just the simple kind of things, and it's funny. I just recently saw someone post on Threads about like how Harry Potter fans and Lord of the Ring fans need to move on because the binary good and evil stories are boring. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I get it. But also like in the world that we live in, and especially in American society, like it'd be nice if we just had some binary, like it'd be easier on our brains, but that's not the world we live in. And so we have to, that's why I talk about like being prepared. Like I would love for my child to be prepared to think in pluralism, just like out the gate, like,
right.
Just be ready. I mean, not out the gate, but as they develop into pluralism first, not dualism exclusively, and then have a shattering moment.
I mean, there's complex characters in both of those properties. So I
you're
wouldn't
saying
say
you can see the good in Voldemort?
I can see the good in Draco Malfoy.
No.
Who is pretty evil.
No. I'm just
I can see the good in a character like Gollum.
This is not. Well, yeah, but he was written that way. You're saying you can see the good in Sauron?
That's what I'm saying.
No, but he's saying
he's pretty evil.
Exactly. That's the boring part.
Voldemort, pretty evil.
Anyways, welcome to Book Talk.
Book Talk, second behind the paywall podcast. and Nathan's like, I'm over here not talking about it.
Only includes science fiction and nerd related pop culture.
Well, who you calling nerd?
As I sit in front of a bunch of Lego. I know. Yeah.
I like Lego too.
I mean, look at Star Wars. Darth Vader came around.
Shout out Luke.
Looking at me like
Darth Vader came around. All right. Well, we should. I forgot how to end this, but we should take a break. And when we come back, we're gonna get into a food you can drink, aka a drink.
Drink.
Music cue.
Cue it.
Welcome back to the Janchi Show. Drink time.
Drink.
We have drinks. We have a drink today, and it is.
What gave it away?
I don't know. What was your first hint? But this is a drink that was a surprise to me because it came in a very nice box, and I was not expecting this. From our friend Juliet, there's a company that she started called Ginsa. This is a ginseng drink, or as it says, sparkling ginseng tonic. So there's three flavors: just ginseng, ginseng plus yuzu, and ginseng plus Korean pear.
I like these matte labels that they're starting to use on cans. I've noticed it on multiple different products recently.
Yeah, I mean, even the box that it came in was colorful and and nice. It's just pleasing to the eye with all the primary colors and stuff.
I know we were getting something when I got an email saying you are receiving a package via the USPS, and I was like, "What is this company?"
Yeah.
That's what I said.
I was like, "I did not order anything from this person."
Oh,
and I was like, and then I was like, "Oh wait, this person looks very familiar."
So yeah, Juliet Kim Blake, who founded Hello Korea Box, which was just always a passion project of hers. She was like, you know what? I'm going to do something even cooler / even harder. I'm going to break into the drink industry. And so she created Ginsa. But yeah, so I like kind of followed her adjacently because I open LinkedIn sometimes to clear out my notifications and see her like pop up. So that's really fantastic. And so she very generously offered to send some our way. So that's what we've got.
Thank you, Juliet.
Yes.
Shout out.
These are non-alcoholic and caffeine free.
Yeah.
And actually only 20 calories per can. The sugar has, I guess, stevia and honey.
I did hear that, or I looked up because I was like, oh, Sarah might be interested in this, but I looked up and I was like, I don't know if ginseng is safe for a pregnant woman. It doesn't seem to be super safe for pregnant women, but she's out of town, so it's fine. No worries.
Oh, really? Why is it unsafe?
I don't know.
If you don't mind me asking.
I just looked it up and it just said maybe don't give it to a pregnant woman. I don't know if that's just like
it's adaptogen.
Is that what it said? It said maybe don't give it.
Yeah, specifically
maybe don't give to a pregnant woman.
Yeah, Bing Chat was like, maybe don't do this. And I was like, all right, Bing Chat, whatever.
There's definitely a few things you shouldn't have when you're pregnant.
All right, are we trying all three of these?
I mean, yeah.
All right. Which one are we doing first?
I'm going to open just ginseng.
All right.
I feel
That's what
like
I was going to do first.
Yeah.
Before you go into it, have you guys ever had ginseng, like actual ginseng?
We've had ginseng on the show.
I thought we've had it on the show, but I don't remember.
I think we had a ginseng
what it
candy.
like.
Yeah, but not like
okay.
not like a root or anything.
Not the actual root in a concentrated form. Okay.
Oh, interesting.
I thought this was the fruity. I thought I opened the wrong one when I smelled it. I was I was like, this is fruity, and I was like, did I open the
that don't taste
yuzu?
bad.
Yeah, it's great. No, just ginseng is a fantastic flavor.
I did not look. Was I supposed to stir it at all? No, because it's carbonated. That would have.
Yeah, I feel like that would explode the can. So maybe don't do that. But yeah, it's a good flavor. I think the thing that was surprising to me about the smell was that there was a smell at all. Like it smelled like really pleasant, and I was just like, I don't know. I imagine it would just be like a tea. I didn't expect
some lemon juice in there. Maybe I can
a strong
smell the lemon.
scent, but I think it was like it is. Yeah, just ginseng is great.
No, because I mean, if you smell regular ginseng, it to me it smells like a root, so it's very earthy. This doesn't smell earthy at all. It doesn't smell
empowering you to awaken your potential and be at your best.
Yeah, it's really bright and colorful, like smelling. And I know you
feel smarter already.
But yeah, so 100% just ginseng is fantastic.
Yeah,
also, I heard that it's coming to. Well, she's about to break into a bunch of different markets, which I'm really excited about. Some of them including Texas. So hell yeah!
I'm just trying to say, Juliet, you doing it right.
Juliet, you crushing it.
Wow.
You crushing it, just like the taste of this drink.
Yes. Okay, so next flavor?
Dang, that's good.
Korean pear?
I almost want to save the other ones, but sure, let's go.
I know, but like...
I'll buy more later.
That's what I'm talking about. Exactly. I 100% will buy more later.
Chugged
it.
Holy moly.
It's only 20 calories. It's fine.
But it says right there, do not chug right on the side.
It says
do not chug or be pregnant.
Yeah, Bing Chat was like, should I
hope you're not breastfeeding, Patrick.
I do breastfeed low-key at night.
All right. I'm going for the Korean pear.
Korean pear. All right.
Korean pear. And great. I just like the colors of these cans. It's very appeasing to my eyeballs.
That's funny. So this one does not smell as citrusy going into it.
I feel like this one doesn't have
has less of a smell.
It has like a less strong flavor, actually.
I know. This one's more subtle, which technically pear is pretty subtle if you really.
I can do that just ginseng, to be honest. I can just get a
ginseng is good. Yeah, Korean pear. I thought it would have a stronger flavor, but it is like it's there. It's subtle. But I went back to the just ginseng because I didn't chug it, and comparatively,
it is just like it's just subtle pear taste. This is the biggest difference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it says natural flavors, so there's some sort of natural pear flavor in there.
Let me look in there. I see the pear. No,
I see the
sitting in the bottom.
I can't recall having anything that is a pear drink that really tastes like pear. Right?
I don't know that I've
Yeah.
had pear drinks ever.
Yeah,
The pear, the juice out of like a pear cup.
Is there like
pears.
pear soju? I don't know. So if you want a milder, if you love the just ginseng, but you feel like it's too strong,
too sweet,
or whatever, the pear is the way to go because it's just a very mild, balanced thing. You get it on the initial, like on the front, but then after that, it's like it's
damn.
good.
I wonder how many of these you can drink at a time. Because I could get into these. I need to stop drinking pop. So
I mean, I don't know why you couldn't drink lots of these. There's a lot of like health benefits, kind of like wives' tale-y, but like health benefits to ginseng. So I can't imagine it's bad for you.
You just threw up like air quotes 3 times back to back. So now I don't know if I trust you.
Well, I just don't know how much research there is. Like, you know what I mean? Like health benefits being like,
sure.
I don't know. This is how you get rid of acne, or like this is how you get rid of jaundice, or this is how you get rid of cancer.
It says health benefits. It says health benefits, and it has the shrug emoji next to it.
So the overall daily dose of ginseng should be about 200 to 400 milligrams. Each one of these cans has about 250 milligrams. So
you can drink 2 a day.
I would say drink, 2 of these a day max.
Man, see, that's the thing. They taste good. I would drink like 4.
I know. Well,
I'm an overindulgent.
Hey, man, live your
SOB.
Hey, it's okay.
Going in
needs rules?
Going in for the yuzu, which I'm personally really excited about because I love yuzu.
I love the yuzu. Yeah. Oh yes, citrusy on the nose.
That smells good.
Yeah.
Honestly, it smells very much like the just ginseng.
Okay. This one's definitely got more.
Yeah, like slightly stronger flavor. I still feel like the just ginseng has the strongest, is the sweetest, strongest flavor.
This one's my favorite.
Really?
Yeah. I like that.
It's very
balances the regular ginseng flavor or what is in the just ginseng just enough for me.
Yeah. Okay.
It sits right on my palate.
Did you feel like just ginseng was too strong?
I don't know if it was too strong, but it was just like, maybe too sweet a little bit. Like not in a bad way. Like I really liked it. You really notice like the stevia sweetening in the just ginseng. Sure.
Whereas the other two flavors, they probably went a little lighter because they've got other flavors to sweeten it up. So
now I'm going to pour both of them in my mouth at the same time and chug them. See how that makes sense.
Double fisted.
Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. I like the yuzu because I'm a fan of grapefruit, and that always reminds me of grapefruit.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm not really a fan of grapefruit.
This does remind me of grapefruit. That's what it is. But I've almost never thought about that about yuzu flavored things, but it does remind me of grape. Like this particular ginseng plus yuzu does kind of hit with like a tame grapefruit. It's not like
a tame one.
Not like pucker your lips sour, but like it's a nice like hint of that. And then I think it finishes really well too, and you get kind of that classic citrusy hit on the end.
Yep, I'm going through them all.
Well, I already drank the one.
Yeah, you chugged it.
It was that good.
I know, but how are you supposed to? It's fine.
Yep.
Well, I remember the flavor of it. Because it was like the base flavor for these two.
That's fair. What would you rate it overall? And then what order would you put them in terms of your faves?
I'm saying as a pack of 3, 5 out of 5. I think these are really good drinks all across the board. And then I would go yuzu, just ginseng, pear. And not because I think pear is the worst, but pear is the one I would drink last. Actually, now that I say that, like I would drink them in opposite order because I want the yuzu last because that's my favorite on my in my mouth. But that's okay. I'm sticking with that. 5 out of 5. Yuzu, just ginseng, pear.
Okay. Nathan, what about you?
I'm a sweet fan, so I'm actually going to go with the just ginseng first, and then the yuzu second, Korean pear third. If I was drinking them every day, it would be a toss up between the just ginseng and the yuzu, because I do, like I said, I like grapefruit flavored drinks. So if I wanted more of like something that had like a fruity flavor to it, I would probably go for the yuzu. But if I wanted just like a sweeter, even though there's not any more sugar content in any of them, they're all the same at 5 grams. If I wanted more of the that sweetness though with whatever I was eating, or if I was just drinking something, I'd probably go with the just ginseng one. And then if I wanted something mild, like something that tasted like a sparkling tonic, maybe even something if I was, say, adding some soju or something to it, I might want that Korean pear flavor with a flavored soju. But I'm just saying that's what's going through my head. So.
And your overall rating? What would you rate it?
Overall rating, easy 5 out of 5.
Ooh,
I will definitely go buy
5.
these. Easy 5 out of 5. If I see these in my store, I hope Juliet get these at H Mart, and I will be there.
Get these into H Mart. H Mart. Get
every
this
H Mart
in your store.
If you're listening, H Mart, you need this.
Someone from H Mart is listening. We've done a good job.
We've made it. If someone from H Mart is listening, let me check actually where she said, 5 out of 5 for sure. She says launching. For Texas folks, she's launching in Central Market in May. So very excited for that.
What did she say about Indiana?
I just asked about Texas. That's on me. I should have asked about broadly where she is. My ranking, I would say if I'm drinking this on the daily, which I can for sure see myself doing, I would actually go pear first, yuzu, and then just ginseng. As a one-off, I might flip the order because for one-off drinks, I don't typically love for example, when I go get a coffee, I don't love to get a super zhuzhed up coffee. However, if it's the afternoon and it's a one-off, I might get a zhuzhed coffee. So I think that's why because the just ginseng is so sweet and it's that feels like treat yourself territory. That's probably what I would go for as a one-off. But on the reg, it would be the pear and then the yuzu. So I think
that makes sense.
Yeah, kind of the opposite / the same as Nathan. No, the opposite of Nathan. Yeah. I listen well. It's fine.
We all had different rating, different rankings.
Oh, so you're saying that we're different people?
No, we're the same.
So yeah, Juliet, thank you so much
drink any of them though. Yeah.
Thank you for these, Juliet.
Thank you,
Juliet. If anyone wants them, you can actually buy them online at ginsabrands.com.
Were you about to say Ginsa?
No, I had to look to see the brands part if it was an S or not. But it's it's ginsabrands.com. So
brands or brands?
Brand,
like a brand. The brand is Ginsa,
or like brands from Game of Thrones.
No,
it will be linked in the show notes.
Yes, you can buy a variety pack or you can buy individual flavors there. So definitely going to get these again. They're very tasty, especially if you there's a lot of people who like, the sparkling waters
I love
right
them.
now, which
I'm not a big sparkling water fan.
I'm not a big fan either because they're not sweet enough or they're just too bland.
Oh, interesting.
These actually have more flavor. And these are definitely something, and it's got red ginseng in it, so it's a little healthier.
And for 20 calories, you don't feel like you're blowing it up calorically, so that's good.
Exactly.
That's true. Keeping those calories down.
Yeah. Well, everyone, that's our show. And
we did it.
We will be back hopefully next week. And then after that, shrug emoji.
Shrug emoji.
But if we're not back next week, then still shrug emoji.
And I might not be here for a while after that. Shrug emoji. But these two might.
Yeah,
or should.
We'll still be doing interviews. Maybe sans Patrick. But
I'll pop into the Instagram from time to time.
Yeah. We still out here. Still want to keep it coming. Hitting your ear holes on the regs. You can hang out with us at Janchi Show on all social media platforms, including but not limited to Threads. Actually, probably most.
Are we on Threads?
I was surprised about that as well. So
I was Threads is the thing. I'm just gonna create that. So
smart.
So at Janchi Show is our social platforms. You can text us or drop us a voicemail at 972-677-8867.
Yes, Daddy. Text yes, Daddy, if you want to hear our dad podcast. I wanted to do the closing things like that. You beat me to it. So I had to sneak it in.
Man. You can also send us an email to janchishow@gmail.com. And because who knows when the next episode is, you can catch all three of us, not Janchi Show related, but we will all three be in Chicago for con. So
end of June.
Grab
June
some
21st through June 23rd.
Registration open now.
Grab some merch because we'll set up a merch table and just come say hello if you're in person at con.
My child may or may not be there.
Yeah,
Ooh.
my child will not be there. So
Sporting some merchandise, I assume.
He has worn the merchandise a couple times.
Alrighty.
Thank you for
Nice.
that.
I have not seen a photo yet, but send
Oh,
us.
yeah,
one.
what the heck, bro?
He
Yeah.
puts it on and then he goes, "Bah!" and then take it right back off.
That's fine.
And that's why we got white
I'm almost
for you.
positive that's what's happened.
Yeah.
Every time.
The outfits don't last very long, I remember.
That's
Yeah.
funny. Is that it for the show?
I think we
After
have like an
party?
email.
Personals,
No, I said the
Patrick in the world, though.
JanchiShow.com/support to support the show. And definitely write in if you want to hear more adoptee-dad content.
Yes, Daddy.
No, my God. Personals. Patrick, where can they send their yes to?
You can send me your yeses to @Patrick in the world on all the social media platform. Well, mostly just the Instagram related social media platforms. Listen to my other show, Conversation Piece Podcast, for a whole bunch of stuff that is cool and fun and happening in Indianapolis.
Yeah,
got it in.
And I am on Instagram and Nowalk, and still on Facebook, Nathan Nowalk.
Why does it sound like you're crying?
I don't know. So I am still post-COVID. That's why my voice has been kind of crazy
You had
this
COVID?
entire episode.
Did I know that?
You might have known that.
You might have known that, but it's still. I'm still recovering the throat thing. So
I recently tried to delete my Facebook and it didn't work, and I was like,
bro, that's one of the most difficult things I've ever done in my life.
Well, it's not even that hard. I just I had some personal work things. And I was like, I can't delete this yet because I need a developer account. Whatever. You can find me at KJ Roelke on all of my social platforms, mostly Instagram and Threads, occasionally TikTok. Yeah. Thanks for listening to the show, everyone. We hope that this podcast finds you in a good place or helps you laugh and helps you think. Until the next time we drop a podcast, Janchi, hail!